Who owns the WordPress CMS that now powers almost 45% of all websites? The answer is not as easy as you might think. Hi, and welcome to the WPQuickies series, bite-sized WordPress tips and tricks in 30 minutes or less. Hi, I'm Will Brown, WordPress consultant and educator. I help WordPress designers and developers get more clients and grow their WordPress business. Hello to you today. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and ding the bell if you're on YouTube to get my latest video updates. We have a Facebook group, so just search for WordPress Sydney Meetup on Facebook. And if you are watching from the Facebook group, if you can visit streamyard.com/Facebook, that'll link your avatar up with the comments, just so I know who is posting comments there. You can also visit WPaustralia.org and see all the WordPress meetups that are happening across Australia. We're trying our hardest to get them all restarting again in person. And there's also a link on there on the WPaustralia.org to our WP Australia Slack group, so you can chat to the community in real time. I'll leave that on screen for a few seconds. Ta-da! You can read that at your own time. The next in-person monthly evening WordPress Sydney meetup is on the last Monday of every month at 6 p.m. in the Microsoft Reactor, which is right next to Wynyard. This month, I'm going to be talking about building quizzes in WordPress. So showing you a few options of how to build quizzes, a little bit of a digital marketing spin on that as well. So do come along, excuse me, meet with the people in person, and there might even be some pizza to munch on as well. I'm always looking for topics. You can scan that QR code afterwards or type in that link and let me know some topics that I might be able to fill out for this WP Quickies. But moving on to our main topic, I should say, let me know who you are, where you're from in the comments below. I always like to see who's watching. But on to our main topic for today. So WordPress is an open source project driven by individual developers and a community of developers and contributors as well. The software is free to use, of course, we know that. So let's explore this a little bit more in some detail. Let's make myself a little bit bigger and the slides small and the slides bigger. There we go. So a little bit about WordPress history, just very, very briefly. WordPress came about when the leading developers of a blogging software called B2/Cafilog decided to discontinue the project. And that was around about the beginning of 2003. Now, two of these B2Cafilog users, namely Matt Mullenweg and Mike Little, they decided to build upon what B2Cafilog already was there. And they basically forked a copy of that software and renamed it to be WordPress. So on the 27th of May 2003, Matt announced version 1.0 of WordPress, which was well received by the community. The software was released under the GPL version 2 license. Now WordPress, excuse me, WordPress 101 had a new administrator interface, so it's different from Cafilog, and it also came with new templates. And more importantly, it generated the XHTML 1.0 compliant web pages. Now, there's a little interface there. That's what version 1.0 looked like if you were to log into the dashboard back in 2003. However, WordPress quickly evolved. So in May 2004, version 1.2 of WordPress came out, and that included the plugin architecture. And this allowed users and developers to extend the functionality of the WordPress core and be able to share those plugins with the wider community. And of course, WordPress has grown and evolved very, very quickly since 2003 and now powers almost 45% of all internet websites, not just the top 10 million, not just those with CMSs, all websites. So that's quite an amazing stat. Here's a question I get asked a lot in meetups: is WordPress.com versus WordPress.org? What is the difference? And it can be a little bit confusing to first timers. So let me just explain a little bit about what's going on. So WordPress.com is a commercial venture and it's run by a company called Automatic. And we'll look at that a little bit later. They use the free open source WordPress software as a foundation, a platform for hosting free and paid website plans. So they have a freemium license kit, whereas you can take out free websites on WordPress.com, and then some of those have a small amount of automatic controlled advertising. So users must pay to remove the adverts and to upgrade to get more advanced features. That's the kind of model, the freemium model that they run on. So that's WordPress.com. WordPress.org, that is the main website for the WordPress Foundation. We'll look at that a little bit in more detail in the coming slides. And the WordPress Foundation oversees the free open source WordPress project. So anyone can download the free WordPress core software from the WordPress Foundation website at wordpress.org, along with free plugins and free themes and other free resources. So quite a big difference between the two. WordPress.com is a commercial venture. It hosts websites. You can have free ones, you can have pay ones. It's commercially driven. Yes, it uses the WordPress software to run it, but it's a commercial venture. And WordPress.org, that is the open source project repository for the actual code and the themes and the plugin that go along with it. So two very, very different things there. So let's have a look at this Automatic company. I'll just get rid of myself here. There we go. So Automatic Inc. is an American global distributed company, and it was founded in August 2005. And it's most notable for running the freemium hosting service at WordPress.com. We've just talked about that, and contributing to the open source WordPress project. Now, the company's name is based on the founder, Matt Mullenweg, and that's his picture there from a 2019 post on Wikipedia. It's based on the founder, Matt Mullenweg's first name, which is Matt with 2 T's, and the word automatic. Now, Matt Mullenweg is the founder and CEO of Automatic, which then runs the WordPress.com commercial venture. So WordPress, open source, and GPL, what is all of that about? So the first version of WordPress was released under the GPL license. Now, the GPL, General Public License, or GNU GPL, or simply just GPL, is a series of widely used free software licenses that guarantee end users the 4 freedoms to run, study, share, and modify the software. Now, these GPL series, they're all what's called copyleft licenses, and that means that any derivative of work that's already been released under GPL must be distributed under the same or equivalent license terms. So in other words, what does GPL mean? It means if you release a software under GPL, the software is guaranteed to remain GPL forever. Okay, let's talk about these things that we mentioned before. So the WordPress Foundation. So in September 2010, Automatic transferred the WordPress trademark and control over some plugins, BBPress and BuddyPress, and other Automatic GPL projects to the newly founded WordPress Foundation. Now, the WordPress Foundation, it is a charitable organization. It's founded by Matt Mullenweg, and its purpose is to further the mission of the WordPress open source project, which is to democratize publishing through open source GPL software. That's their mission statement. Now, the foundation's purpose is to ensure free access to the software projects it supports in perpetuity, forever. So WordPress being obviously the core project, but they do have others there. Now, the WordPress Foundation's purpose is to ensure free access to the software, but they're also responsible for the following main projects. So the WordPress core, GPL software, the trademarks, WordPress, WordCamp, BuddyPress, Openverse, and WP-CLI. So those are trademarked. Free WordPress plugins at WordPress.org. The free WordPress themes at WordPress.org. Founder member WordPress meetup groups. Now you can host your own meetup group, that's fine, but you can come underneath the umbrella of the WordPress Foundation, and they pay the meetup fees, and they also give you support as well. So they're responsible for that. WordCamps, the BBPress GPL software, forum software, and the BuddyPress GPL community software. So those are the main projects that the WordPress Foundation supports. And you can read more about the WordPress Foundation at the URL on screen. There's not a lot there. It's just more a brochure website, but you can get a little bit of sense of what's going on there. Excuse me, lots of coughing today. Okay, so a little bit on WordPress community support. Now, WordPress community support, PBC, is a subsidiary of the WordPress Foundation. So this is where, when saying at the very beginning that who owns WordPress, you know, it's not as simple as you may have thought initially. So WordPress community support is a subsidiary of the WordPress Foundation, which looks after the WordPress core GPL project. And its focus is on building, maintaining the WordPress community, which is, of course, an integral part of WordPress's success and dominance in the market. The purpose of the Public Benefit Corporation, PBC, is not to make profit, but rather to benefit WordPress community programs. So we're talking about things like meetups, we're talking about things like WordCamps here. However, the PBC is taxed as a for-profit corporation by the IRS in America. Now, foundation meetups and WordCamps, they all run through WordPress community support, and WordPress community support is very open on the Make channel. So there's a link there on the slides, and I'll put all the links and stuff in the meetup group and underneath the video descriptions later on today. But there's a good document there that basically just tells you a little bit more about how the WordPress community support works in relation to things like meetup groups and WordCamps there. So just to recap, we've got WordPress.com, which runs under Automatic, which is a paid venture, a private venture. And then we've got WordPress Foundation, which its main website is WordPress.org. It runs the WordPress open source project. And then we've got the subsidiary, WordPress Community Support, which is there, runs under the WordPress Foundation, and it is there to support the community, all community ventures related to the WordPress open source project. Okay, so this is a quick one today. This is the last slide. So rounding it all up, who really owns WordPress is the question that we put out today. Legally, the WordPress core project is open source, and it is overseen by the WordPress Foundation charity. Ideologically, the WordPress project is owned by and driven by the community members, not a single person. However, the dominance of WordPress is largely due to the freemium hosting service that's supplied by WordPress.com, whose founder and CEO is Matt Mullenweg. Matt Mullenweg is also the founder and CEO of the WordPress Foundation charity, which maintains the development of the WordPress GPL project. It hosts WordPress.org, and it drives community-related projects. Now, Matt also takes lead on development projects. He has done in the past. He's involved in top-level discussions that shape the very fabric and features of future WordPress core versions and the overall direction of the project. Now, in recent years, many community members have begun to express their belief that WordPress is becoming less community-led project, it's becoming a less community-led project, and being driven more by the personal thoughts, ideas, and direction of Matt Mullenweg. Now, Matt's a very powerful individual inside and outside the WordPress community, and when he expresses his opinions, people do listen, and project decisions are made within his context. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not putting my hand up to say that's a bad thing. Every project needs a leader to drive it forward. But at present, if someone was to ask me who owns WordPress, I think I would probably certainly have to say that the owner is Matt Mullenweg at the moment. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts on the subject in our Facebook group. So after this broadcast, just let me know what you think about that presentation, about who owns WordPress, what comes to your mind when you're thinking about who owns WordPress, the project, the community, how is it run? How should it be run? And, can we contribute? Can we, as a community, move that forward? So hopefully you enjoyed that little bit of a different presentation today, a little bit of a spin on WordPress. If you got any questions, of course, drop them in the comments. I'm not expecting any from today. But if you have comments, you can drop them in there, or just put them into the Facebook group, and you can continue discussion after this. Here's me, happy to connect with you. I'm mostly on willbrown.com these days and on LinkedIn, but I do have Instagram and Twitter, so you can hit me up on those. Oh, I think it disappeared. Yeah. Okay, so next week on the WP Quickies, a little bit of a segue from the topic today, but I'm going to be talking a little bit more about GPL. Now, I touched on GPL a little bit today, just to give a kind of umbrella overview as what GPL is, but it's pretty important in the WordPress community. So next week, I'm going to be going into a little bit more detail on what GPL is. So if that's something of interest, then please join me next week. Please take care, and I'll see you then.